Haruki Shiga is a stoic, introverted man who is questioning the way his life has gone for the past years. He has been teaching literature for high school students for a long time, but it's not a fulfilling job and he's thinking about resigning. Before he can gather the courage to give his resignation letter to his superior, he is tasked with the administration of the school's library, a place filled with memories that haunt Haruki to this day. When he was a teen, he developed a strange friendship with a classmate, Sakura Yamachi, after he accidentally found out her deepest secret. Sakura had terminal pancreas disease, and in one of her appointments at the hospital, she accidentally drops her journal on the ground. Haruki, who is also at the hospital, picks the journal up and reads it. He's surprised that such a popular girl such as Sakura is going to die in a few years because she has never shown her worries or sadness at school. Sakura is a bubbly, happy girl who smiles all the time, which is the opposite of Haruki, who rarely smiles and is completely invisible to his classmates. Sakura sees him reading her journal, but she's not mad about it. She politely asks for the journal back and explains that if she doesn't go to the doctor often, she's going to die. After that day in the hospital, Sakura starts pestering Haruki and even shows up at the library to work with him. Haruki thinks that the reason why she's going after him is because she's afraid he'll tell her secret to everyone. But never once does Sakura ask him to keep it a secret. He assumed it after she told him the truth. Sakura replies that working at the library sounds fun. Haruki doesn't think so. He gets annoyed at her because she didn't follow his classification system and messed up the books, but Sakura answers that it's okay to make mistakes sometimes and it's fun to find little treasures when everything is a mess. She's very charismatic and honest about her feelings and thoughts, so slowly she makes Haruki open up for her. He wonders why she's working at a library when she should have been having a blast with the little time she has. For Sakura, though, life is fleeting whether you are sick or not, and people should enjoy life no matter what. She notices that Haruki is introverted and doesn't have any friends, so she decides to help him enjoy his life before she dies. Haruki is shocked when she tells him that, but Sakura doesn't give him a chance to deny her. She asks him to meet her at the train station and quickly leaves. With no other option, Haruki meets her and she tells him that they are going to a restaurant to eat animal pancreas, because Sakura saw somewhere that in the past, if one of your organs was bad, you ate the equivalent organ from an animal and it would get better. Haruki begrudgingly accepts to go there and they talk a bit about their lives. Sakura tells him she has a best friend called Kyoko, and that she will be jealous of Haruki for going out with Sakura. She asks if he has a best friend, and instead of answering, Haruki asks Sakura why she wants to know if she has no real interest in him. She gets upset that he's implying she's going out with him only because of her disease and abruptly leaves. Haruki goes after her and explains that he doesn't have a best friend, a friend or a girlfriend. Sakura loudly asks if he at least has a girl he likes, and embarrasses Haruki because a bunch of girls around them hear and laugh at him. Finally, he answers that there was one girl he liked and she taught him to be respectful towards others. Sakura is surprised that the reason Haruki fell for the girl was because she was really respectful to anyone, no matter who they were. When she asks if he confessed his feelings, he denies and says that she started dating an attractive boy in his class. Slowly, with her fun and open personality, Sakura manages to break Haruki's walls down a bit. And after they go home, they exchange messages and he even reads a book she recommended to him, a copy of The Little Prince with a smiley face drawn on the cover. Next day, at school, when Haruki enters the classroom, all his classmates stare at him as if he were an animal at the zoo. Kyoko, Sakura's best friend, squares up to him to question why he's hanging out with Sakura, but Sakura comes to his rescue and takes Kyoko away. Kyoko asks her friend why she's suddenly hanging out with the gloomiest boy in class, and she answers that they get along well. Everyone in the class hears her and starts gossiping about it. Haruki is uncomfortable with all the unwanted attention and storms out of the classroom to the roof of the school. Sakura goes after him asking why he was so angry, and he pleads with her to leave him alone and stop hanging out with him. He says it would be better if she spent her last days with her real friends, like Kyoko. Sakura refuses to tell anyone that she's sick, because she knows people will treat her differently, especially Kyoko. She confesses that she knows she's going to die in a matter of months and she wants to have someone who is not desperately trying to find a cure for her disease, like her parents and Kyoko would do. She likes Haruki because when she told him she was going to die, he didn't offer condolences or cry. He just quietly stared at her without any emotion on his face. That's what she wants for her last days. Someone to be with her regardless of her sickness, someone who won't treat her as a glass that can be shattered anytime. Back to the present day, Haruki receives a marriage invitation from Kyoko, and it brings even more memories of his time with Sakura, especially what she asked him in regards to Kyoko. He remembers when he asked Sakura where she would like to go before she died, and they plan a trip together to Kyushu, an island full of hot springs and beaches. On the way, they share their lunch and Sakura shows him the list she made of things she wants to do. She's really excited and happy, while Haruki tries to keep up with her. They go sightseeing, eat at restaurants, and go to a shrine to pray. Sakura even goes overboard and pays for an expensive room at a famous hotel using her savings. But she made a mistake in choosing the room and they have to stay in the same room together. The room is huge and very fancy. Sakura excitedly explores the room while a nervous Haruki watches her. He's freaking out that he's going to spend the night with a girl in a hotel room, and it only gets worse when Sakura pokes fun at him, saying that they are going to sleep together. Haruki refuses to sleep on the same bed, mainly because they aren't a couple. Later that day, Sakura starts drinking, one of the items of her list, and invites Haruki to play Truth or Dare. During the game, Sakura subtly flirts with Haruki, not that the aloof boy notices. When it's his turn, he asks very serious questions, as if he's in a job interview. In the end, Haruki wins and offers him 2 options. If he chooses Truth, he has to say 3 things he finds cute about her, and if it's a dare, he has to carry her to bed. He chooses Dare and takes her to bed bridal style. Sakura gets all giggly and offers to play another game. When he loses again, he chooses Truth. Sakura asks him what he would do if she told him she's afraid of dying. Instead of answering, he changes to Dare and Sakura dares him to sleep in the bed with her. They end up sleeping in the same bed, though distant from each other. In the following morning, Kyoko calls Sakura asking where she is, and Sakura answers she's in a different city with Haruki. Kyoko cannot believe it, but Sakura tells her one day she's going to explain why she's hanging out with Haruki. When the call ends, Sakura asks Haruki to get along with Kyoko when she dies. She doesn't want to leave Kyoko alone because Kyoko is prone to make bad choices, especially regarding men. Haruki doesn't give her an answer. When they leave to go back home, Haruki tells Sakura that he had fun with her, and she almost explodes with happiness. She says that she also had fun, and as a thanks, when she dies, she wants him to eat her pancreas because then she would always be with him. She adds that she really wants to keep on living, but since she can't, at least she can try to spend her life inside him. Haruki finally understands that though she's always smiling and seems unaffected by her fate, Sakura hides what she truly feels, something that Haruki does too. In the future, Kyoko's fiancé says that Haruki hasn't answered their wedding invitation yet. Haruki wonders if he should accept it or not, and remembers the way Kyoko used to hate him because of his proximity with Sakura. Not only that, but his things, like the book Sakura lent him and a pair of shoes, go missing, and he has no idea who is taking them. Kyoko is also suspicious of Sakura and follows her everywhere, so she asks Haruki to meet her at her place. Haruki is nervous and tense when he goes to her house. Many of his boundaries were already crossed by Sakura and he's not sure how to feel about it. Sakura tells him there's one more thing she wants to cross from her list, which is to get intimate with a guy who isn't her boyfriend. She gets closer to a very tense Haruki and hugs him closely while whispering in his ear what she wants. Haruki starts getting distressed. He's not used to hugging or being close to people in general, much less a girl like Sakura. Sakura notices he's way too serious and pretends it's a joke. Haruki gets mad at her and suddenly attacks her by pinning her on the floor. Sakura starts crying and Haruki leaves her there alone, lying on the floor, and goes back home. On his way out of Sakura's house, her ex-boyfriend, the one who was possessive of her, stops Haruki and questions what he's doing there since he doesn't reside in that region. Haruki answers that he's mistaken about the nature of his relationship to Sakura, but that she doesn't like persistent guys like him. The ex, Takahiro, punches Haruki and yells at him. Then he throws Sakura's book at him. Sakura arrives at the scene and runs to help Haruki out. Takahiro asks why Sakura is with Haruki, but she cuts him off and demands that he stays away from her and her friends. She takes Haruki back to her place so he can take a shower and change his dirty clothes. There, Haruki apologizes for his reaction earlier and tells her that maybe Takahiro is right, that Sakura and him shouldn't be together, they are like night and day. Sakura's bubbly, happy and outgoing, while Takahiro is introspective, quiet and lonely. Sakura interrupts him by saying that she disagrees with him, that it was their choices that led them to that place, and it was all right for them to be friends. Back in the present day, Kyoko sees Haruki on his way to the school and goes after him. She remembers a moment in the past where something similar happened, and she confronted Haruki about Sakura. She tells him that nothing good happens when he's around and that Sakura is at the hospital because of him. She doesn't know what her real disease is, though, because Sakura lied to her, saying she had appendicitis. She demands that he stays away from her best friend. Haruki doesn't hear her babbling because he gets worried when she says Sakura is at the hospital. After school, he visits Sakura at the hospital. She is surprised to see him there and tells him that it's nothing serious, just a routine appointment. Haruki is relieved to hear that. He helps her with the school work she missed and Sakura tells him he should become a teacher because he's very good at it. Later, Kyoko appears at the hospital, and though Haruki wanted to leave before she arrived, Sakura almost convinces him to stay and become friends with Kyoko, clueless that Kyoko told him to stay away from her. When Haruki is leaving, he sees Kyoko eavesdropping on his conversation with Sakura. Sakura jokes that she wants Haruki to give back the clothes and underwear he borrowed when he was at her home, which freaks Kyoko out. In the present day, Haruki wonders again if he made the right choice in becoming a teacher. Meanwhile, Kyoko stares at her pictures with Sakura, reminiscing the time when she confronted Haruki again, demanding that he doesn't play with Sakura's feelings, because she's a fragile girl. Instead of getting offended for her brashness again, Haruki admires Kyoko's undying loyalty to Sakura. Kyoko confesses to him that when she was younger, she didn't have any friends until Sakura noticed her. Kyoko's story is very similar to Haruki. Both were loners before Sakura brought her light into their lives. For that reason, Kyoko is protective of her, and tells Haruki that she will never forgive him if he hurts Sakura somehow. At school, people gossip and call Haruki a stalker. He tells Sakura, who finds it funny. She explains to Haruki that the reason why people create stories about him is because he doesn't talk to anyone. She tells him that if he gives people the opportunity to get to know him, people will understand him. Haruki prefers to be a loner and says he doesn't really care about what people think of him. Sakura playfully inquires if he wants to know what she thinks about him. Then she acts coy and says that she's going to write in her journal and he can read after she dies. She will give the privilege of reading it only for him, and he promises he's going to read it when the time comes. Adult Haruki still has Sakura's journal and he starts reading it. As he goes, he remembers when she called him in the middle of the night saying that she was going to sneak out of the hospital to meet him. Haruki notices that there's something wrong with her and goes running to the hospital. There, Sakura tells him that her confinement at the hospital was extended. She asks him to play truth or dare with her again. She loses the first round and chooses the truth. Haruki asks her what she thinks living is, and Sakura replies that it's the ability to communicate with someone at heart, to be recognized and liked by someone, or even to be hated. That's why she likes Haruki so much, because she lived with him, even if only for a short time. Haruki asks her what she is hiding from him, but Sakura changes the subject by asking if he wants her to stay alive. He says yes. Sakura hugs him close and Haruki tells her that he wants to travel with her again when she gets discharged. Days later, Sakura is finally discharged, so Haruki plans to take her to see the Sakura trees blossoming. He's so happy that he will be able to do something like that to her when one of his classmates, Gamu-kun, offers him gum. He accepts it. Slowly but surely, Sakura is breaking Haruki's walls, which is exactly what she wanted since the beginning. Haruki plans everything they are going to do during their trip. While they are waiting to meet, they exchange messages and Haruki even tells her he thinks she's the cutest girl in class. Sakura dresses up and rushes to meet him, while Haruki starts writing a message to her confessing that he has always admired her from afar. The way people liked and accepted her, the way she accepted people. Haruki wishes he could be more like Sakura. Before he sends the message, he erases everything and decides to write a simple, "I want to eat your pancreas," which summarizes exactly what he feels for her. He wants to be a part of her forever, just like he wants her to be a part of him. Sakura doesn't reply to his message and she also doesn't appear at their meeting. Haruki thinks that the message was too much for her, but what he doesn't know is that on her way to meet him, someone stabbed her, and she passed away. Haruki can't believe it when he sees the news. It was such a violent way to go and not what they were expecting at all. It's not fair to Sakura, but at least she got to spend her life the way she wanted to for some time. 1 month goes by and Haruki finally finds the courage to read her journal like he promised. He goes to her house to pay his respects to her and her family. There, he admits to her mother that he knew about her disease and that he wants to read her journal. Her mother chuckles and tells him that Sakura had told her she wanted to give the journal to him, the only person who knew about it. As he reads it, he finds out that Sakura was nervous when he took her journal the first time, at the hospital, but she pretended she was okay. When Haruki didn't cry or overreact, she was surprised in a good way. She confesses that she has always been curious about him, the quiet boy in her class, and she wanted to know more about him. She admits that she made a mess in the library because she wanted him to notice her. The day he left her house after she hugged him, she cried by herself, something that she was doing a lot since finding out about her disease. When he visited her at the hospital, she had been glum and worried about her hospitalization, but just seeing him made her so happy she wanted to cry. She also admits to trying to make Kyoko and him like each other, maybe romantically. During their last game of Truth or Dare, when he left, she cried a lot. She knew her ending was coming and she wanted to spend her last days with him, on their last trip, watching cherry blossoms. In her last entry before her passing, she excitedly wrote that she was temporarily discharged and really happy that she was going to meet Haruki. Her mother thanks him for giving her the time to spend her last days to the fullest. Haruki finally cries for the first time since finding out Sakura passed away. In the following scene, adult Haruki stares at the cherry blossom tree in full bloom and cries. When he goes back to school, his assistant at the library finds a card with a smiley face drawn, the same one that was on the back of Sakura's copy of The Little Prince. Haruki picks it up and rushes to find the book with the number on the card. He searches for it everywhere until he finds it. In the book, there are 2 letters. After reading it, Haruki starts crying and runs to go to Kyoko's wedding that's happening that day. He meets Gamu-kun there, and he brings him to see Kyoko. Kyoko is surprised to see Haruki there. After all, he never replied to her invitation. Haruki apologizes and tells her that there's something important he must tell her. He hands one of Sakura's letters to her. The letter is for Kyoko, and Sakura tells her everything regarding her disease and why she didn't tell her. She also asks her to become friends with Haruki. Kyoko is really grateful for the letter. She finally understands Sakura's behavior back in school. Haruki apologizes again for giving the letter so late and right before her wedding. Then he asks if she wants to be his friend. Kyoko accepts it and cries her eyes out. After the wedding, Haruki reads Sakura's letter to him. In the letter, she says she admired his way of not caring about what people thought about him, that he's strong. She considered herself weak because she let everyone around her worry about her. She tells him to fall in love with someone, to spend his life to the fullest, and to reach out to a lot of people. In the end, Haruki rips his resignation letter apart and does as Sakura advised him. He stays alive.